The purpose of this video is to present a clear and specific overview of the components of a consistent application in knowledge-centered instruction understanding in the classroom. I will give examples on how you can utilize C and K in the classroom by explaining the different types of instructional methods. Consistent application and knowledge-centered instruction both have their own specific attributes. Some of these attributes share similarities in instruction. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these components. For the C side of the infographic, we see consistent use of technology, deeper levels of learning are accessible, choice and expression of learning, and teacher acts as facilitator or mentor. These are the types of shifts that indicate a C classroom. Now, for the K side of the infographic, we see student ownership and learning, personalized goals and objectives, high rigor in content and device, and just like on the C side of the infographic, the teacher acts as the facilitator and mentor. Keeping these attributes in mind, there are multiple ways we can approach the C and K classroom. For example, as the teacher, we could provide online lectures for our students so that they can go back and reflect on what was taught in class for that day. It is important that we teach our students how to watch these videos, and it is also important to set up a system of accountability to make sure the students are actually watching the videos. To develop a C and K project in the classroom, it is ideal that you set up a project template for yourself. This way, you can write out an overview of your project and provide driving questions and examples for yourself. It is important that you address the standards, content areas, course standards, and support standards. Include specifics on what students will be working on and the purpose of the project. The question is, why do we need to work towards this type of innovation in our schools and classrooms? The answer is that as time moves on, we see a shift in students' understanding of information. Nowadays, a lot of students are familiar with technology, and it is important that they understand how to appropriately use this technology for their learning benefit. In the midst of all of this, it is important to keep in mind our behavior and attitude towards our students. George Couros, in The 8 Characteristics of an Innovator's Mindset, gives us a great insight into how we should be working to develop students as innovators in their educational pursuit. This picture is a great visual on the embodiment of these 8 characteristics. As teachers, we need to be constantly encouraging our students to be the best person they individually can be versus being stern and discouraging. Because sometimes, even as teachers, our behavior speaks louder than our words. As teachers, we strive for one goal, and this is the excellence and success of students. In order to achieve this goal, we as educators need to be empathetic, problem finders, risk takers, networked, observant, creators, resilient, and reflective, just as George Couros describes in this visual graph. Here's another example on how we can utilize the C and K attributes. This is from the Blended Learning reading, and I am specifically going to talk about the brick and mortar location. This is where the student learns at least in part in a supervised brick and mortar location away from home. In other words, the student attends a physical school with teachers or guides with some on-campus, away-from-home component built into their schedule. The teacher here, in this case, is the technology. There are 3 different types of instructional methods that are cooperative with the utilization of C and K classrooms. These methods are project-based learning, flipped instruction, and blended learning. I will take some time to describe each method individually and then give some examples on how to go about utilizing each method. By definition, project-based learning is a student-centered pedagogy that involves a dynamic classroom approach in which it is believed that students require a deeper knowledge through active exploration of real-world challenges and problems. This means we are using a teaching method in which our students can learn by being actively engaged in real-world and personal projects that have meaning to them. You can utilize project-based learning in your classroom by challenging your students to read and discuss poetry and then having them write their own. You could ask students to learn about immigration by sharing their own family histories. This way the students can get to know each other, feel better, and more comfortable about sharing personal information with their classmates. The ultimate idea here is for students to be better engaged and interested in their learning process through fun activities. By definition, a flipped classroom is an instructional strategy and a type of blended learning that reverses the traditional learning environment by delivering instructional content, often online, outside of the classroom. While there's not one specific model you follow with this method, the core idea is to flip the traditional approach of lecture and homework and give the students an opportunity to learn outside of the classroom. Flipped learning is a great method to use for students who are sick, absent from school, or often find themselves missing scheduled class times. This includes students who are involved with different clubs and teams as well, such as band and choir members and sport athletes. Using the flipped learning method, teachers can create an online resource that the students can view so that they don't miss out on homework assignments or lectures that they were not present for. By definition, blended learning is an approach to education that combines online educational materials and opportunities for interaction online with traditional place-based classroom methods. It requires the physical presence of both teacher and student, with some elements of student control over time, place, path, or pace. In simpler terms, it is a method of education in which students learn electronically and through online media, while traditional face-to-face teaching is still present. One of the examples from an article that I read was about a student and how he spent a holiday reading online translations for school because of how much he liked using the technology for learning new things in the classroom. In the modern world in which we live in, many students are at home using devices on the daily. They are familiar with the use of technology, and it is the form in which most students achieve their own individual learning, so it makes sense to utilize this technology in the classroom. Hopefully you can now utilize C and K in your classroom by the different instructional methods that were presented in this video. Thank you for watching.